Everybody, welcome to CKAMAs. Coming from a non-traditional background himself, tonight's guest has made the transition into software engineering by way of Kenzie Academy. After finding Kenzie and enrolling in their second ever software engineering cohort, he went on to land a remote position before the allure of education brought him right back. Now, the student turned teacher instructs other ambitious people on acquiring the same skill set that reignited his passions and fueled his own personal growth. Having immersed himself so deeply into his craft, he's been able to intentionally cultivate the foundations for an unrelenting, fiery passion and glean valuable insights and mental models that he is able to pass to his students by sheer osmosis. Please turn your cameras on, unmute yourselves, and help me in welcoming the man that beautifully took a dive straight into the deep end and never looked back. One of Kenzie Academy's newest instructors, Jake Johnson. Welcome, Jake.
Hi.
How's it going, Jake?
Hi.
Hi, Jake.
Hi, Jake.
Hi, Jake.
Hello.
Thank you, guys. Melvin, I need you to write narrations for everything I do in my life. That was great.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. One of the things that most excites me about your story particularly is that intentionality you had with making what you were learning the center of your universe. I've come across this idea of passion as an architectural build and not really kind of like an archaeological dig like most people tend to think about it. Can you explain what you did to immerse yourself in what you were trying to accomplish and how powerful that was for your own growth?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think that's well put. It's an archaeological, not just a dig. It's an entire site, right? You're setting up camp when you decide to change your career path. I personally, I'm from a non-traditional background. I wasn't into tech until about 2018 when I first enrolled in Kenzie. So I have a bachelor's degree from IU in communications. Tech is not something I thought I was going to do, but definitely something I was aware of and interested in. But I definitely decided at some point that, when I wanted to take this plunge into technology, that if I was going to take the plunge, I was going to plunge right into the deep end. And so that was surrounding myself in this universe of technology. And it's so easy to do. There's so many resources available, developers never stop learning. People in technology, that's a big theme you'll hear. You never stop learning. And so there are communities built around this, whether that's Reddit, specific technology blogs or podcasts or whatever. You can surround yourself with things related to what you're trying to achieve at all times. And that doesn't mean that you're working. I was able to find myself relaxing to podcasts talking about technology. That's the sort of way that I wanted to engulf myself in it when I started. Yeah.
And how did you kind of, would you mind walking through the progression of that? Did you already know what to follow? Already know how to implement that to your day to day? Or was that kind of like a Lego building block set where you're just kind of adding more things every day?
Yeah, definitely. Technology in general, I don't think there's a position in technology that isn't a Lego set. It is constantly building upon the foundation of what you already know. So yeah, it was definitely a slow process, but I think it was fueled by a genuine excitement in what I was doing. So I went through Kenzie Academy in the software engineering program. So that was, I purposefully wanted to put myself in an environment where 9 to 5, I was expected to be working with technology. I was expected to be talking to people about it. I was expected to be working on it. And so through that, it was a slow burn. It was slowly, oh, did you hear? Yeah, I started listening to this podcast and so said this thing. And then kind of this snowball effect of getting yourself, just like any online culture that you can find these days, you can build those Lego pieces really easily.
Yeah, and so that seems to be like a pretty wonderful place to kind of immerse yourself and like get in touch with like-minded people and share these ideas. How would you say that like the kind of classroom kind of setting allowed for these types of interactions?
Yeah, definitely. So Kenzie specifically, one thing that drew me to it was this flipped classroom setting. I never enjoyed this idea of sitting and listening to one person speak for an extended period of time and then getting kind of thrown to the wolves. So Kenzie like immediately was very like, we have a little bit of instruction, but then everything's project based. So everything is you're collaborating with other people going, that are on the same path as you, that are doing the exact same things, trying to achieve the same goals. So it became like that group aspect, I think, was really important. It was kind of like this gauntlet that we were all going through together. And so everyone was excited about it. Like it was kind of like this spark energy that was going on with all my classmates, being there every single day. Like rain or shine, you have no choice. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, you got to think about tech. And like, it's not always fun and exciting, but you got to do it and you got to get through it somehow. So that was a big part of it for me.
Yeah, I totally keep getting that like that vibe, that initial kind of like visceral reaction of people that are a part of Kenzie, right? Like how cohesive those groups really are. Could you talk kind of like how like close you got to your cohort mates, or like how those interactions kind of played out?
Oh, absolutely. Happy to talk about that because so I was there early on at Kenzie, so we were pretty small. The in-person people, I think there are 8 or 9 of us total, but no, those are my best friends to this day. Like those are the people I hang out with after work. Those are the people I'm having virtual happy hours with during quarantine. Those are the people, if I have a programming problem, I'm like, hey, Kyle, how do I do this in Node? It became my social circle, and it was really motivating to be like, it's this gauntlet you're kind of going through with folks. Everyone's here for the same reason. We want to do something better. We want to achieve something. We want to level up our skills. And so I just grew so close to these people from totally different walks of life, folks that I would have never, ever met doing anything that I was doing before. And this common goal was kind of this glue, like, to these really beautiful relationships. And that social motivation was definitely like a huge factor for me.
So I see that Patrice is actually asking also a question that this actually builds on. So would that be one of the things that kind of sets Kenzie apart from any of the other boot camps that you were looking into, or could you talk about kind of what you think kind of really differentiates Kenzie?
Yeah. So again, I haven't been to other boot camps, so I can't speak specifically for it. But I do, being both a student at Kenzie and now being on staff as a facilitator, or as an associate instructor doing facilitating roles at Kenzie, I've gotten to see both sides of it, and I've gotten to see where their core values really lie. And that's in the student, like it's almost like so cliche. People say like the Kenzie fam and this and that, but like it's real. Like people will say it, and sometimes they sound cringy when they do, but it's a real thing. It's a network of folks, and that was, I don't know, like we always like it's a certain, the people I met there, that was a big part of why it was so easy to make my social circle engulfed by these people, is they were great people. Like I have not met a person that I thought was at Kenzie for the right reasons that I didn't think was like an exceptional, solid person, like deep down.
And do you think that's kind of a part of the process that Kenzie kind of selects their students, or do you think that that's kind of like a thing that anyone kind of cultivates as they're going through the program itself?
So I know Kenzie is particular about sort of that culture fit, right? Kenzie wants to make sure that if you're in Kenzie, you're in it for the right reasons on all fronts, right? You're in it because you want to better yourself, both skill-wise, but I mean, we better ourselves all around every day at Kenzie, and there's no tolerance for not doing that. So sorry, Alicia.
I can add to that a little bit too. Hi again, everyone. I'm Alicia. I'm an admission advisor at Kenzie. Been around since August 20th, 2018, 19. So I would echo what Jake says in that in our admission process, we are looking for humble learners, listeners, and leaders. We are looking for people who are willing to, if you are open to developing your mental strength, especially at this moment in time, that this is the program for you. This is the group of people for you. There are 671 people on our whole campus Slack channel right now. So you would immediately step into a group, a family of people. I would also echo what Jake said. Sometimes it's like, oh, are you sure? Is it that really what it is? But it really is. I tell all the people that I work with, like, you literally come right back to me whenever you need somebody to talk to, whenever you need to brag about the app that you've just built, whenever you need to vent about how difficult that this challenge is, but how you're growing at the same time. If you need to talk about mental health and self-care, I'm all about that. Cats, traveling, food, you come to me. You come to me for networking help, interview skills. Jake, didn't I mock interview you once? I think I did.
Absolutely. And just for context, I am, compared to most folks, I'm pretty flat-faced and stoic. Like, Alicia should be the one talking about like what the lifeblood of Kenzie is, because Alicia's infectious personality is it's infectious. That's the sort of thing flowing through the blood of Kenzie for sure.
Yeah, and it's people like me and Jake, regardless of whatever our external personalities are, we take that to heart so much every single day. And so in the interview process, we are asking questions. They're like, are you willing to ask for help? You know, if you ever find that you need it, are you willing to work with others, but also, again, develop that mental strength so that independently you can push forward and grow as a developer or a designer. So we are actively looking for those things. And we want to make sure that we are intentional about protecting that beautiful Kenzie family that does exist and will continue to exist even through these trying times.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, especially when you're trying to, gain and acquire these very difficult to acquire skills, you kind of do need more support than just the technical aspect of it, or just like, getting past this one problem, this one line of code. There's just, it's so multi-layered that it's important to kind of hit it on all fronts. And so that's really awesome to hear about. So at least when you are, actually, before I ask another question, we do have a ton of people on this call. I wanted to make sure that you all know that this is an Ask Me Anything format. So Jake and Alicia are here to answer any and all questions that you all have. If you could, it would be great if you could use the raise hand feature that Zoom actually has built into their app. It'll actually help me just queue people up so that we can just start calling on you guys. We do have the chat as well. You can drop questions into the chat. It would be really great if all of you all just, turned your cameras on and unmuted yourselves, because ultimately, like, you're trying to talk to humans, right? And so that would be really great.
Cool.
So I think we have a question from Chris.
Question, does Kenzie have any cybersecurity courses?
Currently, no, there's not any like formal courses offered in cybersecurity. Yeah, that's the short answer to that. There's always like there's always extra room at Kenzie for like extracurricular projects, but no actual like formal coursework. No.
I got you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Jake, what would you say in terms of what we share with students and the content around Python and Django? What kind of basis or foundation does that give students for cybersecurity interests?
Yeah, no, that's very true. So we do offer the back 6-month course in Python is going to be a fantastic intro to any set of skills like that, including cybersecurity or IoT. A lot of like emerging technologies right now, like they're written in Python. Python's the base of that. So while there might not be actual coursework in the specifics of cyber technology or cybersecurity, the basis in back-end development with Python is what I would think would be like probably the first stepping stone to something like that.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of resources for cybersecurity. I just was wondering if your guys' school offered that option. Thank you for answering, though. I appreciate that.
Chris, I can also add to that I was just looking that up the other day. Someone that I was speaking with was also interested in cybersecurity, and our partner, Colorado State University Global, where you can transfer a maximum of 24 credit hours over two. They do have a certificate in cybersecurity. They have bachelor's and master's degree programs in the business and tech fields. And again, you can use your time at Kenzie Academy as transfer credits over to CSU Global, which is an all remote program as well.
What are you guys' ISA options for your guys' courses?
Yeah, absolutely. So the ISA is just our way of making sure that the barrier of finances is not present to traditional higher education, right? So with our ISA, it's going to be $100 down, and then you would do the entire year, graduate, commit to 13% of your gross monthly earned income for 48 payments specifically. And so in the admission process, we make sure that you have all that information possible to make the best decision for you specifically. I will let everyone on the call know is that we are waiving the $100 commitment fee for everyone who joins us before April 15th for the April 28th cohort. So if you are interested in the middle of the process, nearing the end, it needs to be done before April 15th in order for you to get that experience. Having been around for almost 2 years now, I've never seen us do this, but it's because we want any personal finances that you have right now to be used for your immediate personal needs. You don't need to worry about us, or education payments.
Also, I've been running into problems with having a diploma or GED background too. Also, background checks. I've grown up, let's just say, in not a very great environment. So, I'm just recently coming off being homeless and stuff like that, and I have no income. I'm trying to get disability. I'm just trying to get a foot forward into the industry, and I'm trying to find a school who would pull me in, as you would say.
Jake, do you mind sharing a little bit more about like your job search process? And I can add updates as needed, which is a really great segue to Patrice's question about our placement numbers.
Sure. So yeah, just my general experience job searching as a Kenzie student.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, coming out of my student time at Kenzie, so we began kind of job searching around, I believe, like the 7th month mark. So within 7 months of the 1-year program, we were beginning with interview prepping, so Kenzie's got a lot of resources, and, they keep expanding all the time, for specific kind of like job interview soft skills. So things that aren't related to the technology stuff that you're learning, but that are still really important to you in the job process and the interview process. So by the 7th month mark, you're meeting with folks doing mock interviews, both on the technical and soft skill side. So I felt very prepared by that time. And there's also folks in charge of, identifying the folks that are job ready and helping them, linking them up with interviews. So yeah, before I was graduated Kenzie, I had gone on several job interviews, gained a lot of experience just in my soft skills, and then was actually, able to I had a couple of offers come in, and I was able to evaluate which one I thought was going to be the best fit for me, and accept that offer. And so I was fortunate enough to actually work part-time for the last month at Kenzie, finishing up my certificate before starting full-time at the agency I started at.
And I will also add that within 6 months of graduation, 90% of our students get placed. And oftentimes that's even 3 months or less after graduation. It's also, again, like Jake's scenario, not out of the ordinary for students to get jobs before, but as of late, we have greatly expanded our placement team. And so it's a 3-phase process now. Phase 1 is asset creation. And so how do you build out a resume or a digital portfolio? Well, you probably got to also self-reflect about it first. What kind of company are you hoping for specifically? Is it a tech startup? Jake, was the agency that you worked at, like, how were they categorized? Tech startup, corporate, consultant firm?
So they were like kind of polar opposite of most of the things. Most of the things I see at Kenzie are very like cutting edge startup, young, kind of San Francisco, Silicon Valley wanna be, that sort of culture. So the place that I ended up was kind of on an interesting spectrum. They were a technology company. So, we built websites and applications for folks, but they had been around since 1984, they still maintain about 11 employees. So kind of an interesting, my boss at the time remembers seeing Steve Jobs in like the early 90s and thinking that this guy knows what he's talking about and like emulating some of his stuff. So it was definitely, there's so many sectors to do that. But like, because of that, because we were a little older, more enterprise, we worked with some bigger, like more enterprisey clients. We got to work with some hospitals, some banks. So yeah, just a totally kind of different thing than I thought I would end up in, but still really cool.
So, I mean, obviously you have to think about like, what kind of work culture am I going to be best in? And then you develop a resume, your cover letter, we go through those processes. Your digital portfolio is going to be probably the most important out of all of those. Me personally, also having my degree in communication like Jake, and knowing other people that have struggled with our background, in finding jobs and just like walking away with that piece of paper that says that we can follow instructions and take tests. There's so much more to it than that. And your digital portfolio is such a conglomeration that is precious of not only those stories and experiences of all of those projects over a year that you've had, but also the specific products that you are able to like then share with an employer. Look, this is what I've done and this is what I can do for you. So we want to make sure that you have that particular gem in the job search process. So that's phase 1, asset creation. Phase 2 is the mock interview phase. You'll go through various mock interviews. Me and Jake did an interpersonal kind of mock interview, but now in particular, the technical interviews are going to be also very important. So it's really the technical stuff that we are, pretty much hounding and making sure that you're prepared for. And then the final phase is the job search process itself. And if you fall upon hard times, like right now, you are welcome to come back and utilize our job search resources. That was confirmed by our VP of Placement today in our all hands staff meeting. I have seen it happen. I mean, gosh, I ran into Taylor, Jake, Taylor Gentry, on Valentine's Day at a pizza place. And he was like, gosh, I am not happy where I am. And I was like, did you talk to Danielle? And he was like, yeah, I just did. And she actually connected me with, 2 people who set up a phone interview. And he, as of a couple weeks ago, maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, was hired at a new company, came over to Kenzie Academy's campus before we were all remote to say, hey, I finally got it. Like, I got another job. I'm really happy about it. Thanks for the support, you guys. And that was a really good day. So it's just like, yeah, it's a kind of a no-brainer, but it's a very well thought out and developed job search process. We're also developing products specifically for our students in this process. So including a Kenzie job board specifically for our students, and then also some ways to kind of highlight our students, kind of like LinkedIn profiles specifically for Kenzie alums, so that our employer partners can know who you are and what your skill sets are.
And I think that kind of ties back into, like, what's that Kenzie family? Like, how is that different than the other boot camps or similar things out there? Like, Kenzie does not just like drop you off, here you go, when your time's done. Like, you're there, you're part of the family. Like, yeah, again, Taylor was in my cohort. So it's been a year since Taylor stepped foot in that building, but the resources are still there for him, and everyone's happy to see him.
I believe that Naisha had a question. I don't know if I think she just dropped out of the chat. But I think Douglas also had a question. He had his hand up at one point. Chris, we'll get back to your second question, but we also have a couple in the chat. Douglas, I don't know if you're still in here, if you still wanted to ask your question. No, it looks like he's also missing. So I think Shamita asks something about EdTech. Shamita, did you want to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask? Oh, Naisha's back as well. So Naisha can also ask her question.
My question is that, do you guys do like the boot camp for this program? And and my second part is that, like, somebody was going off and saying that they were having a tough time. Like, I kind of have my background check. Like, I did a background check. There are some things that's kind of iffy right now, but also I don't have any job. I don't have a job right now. So would that $100 be waived for me if I signed up?
Yes. If you were signed up by April 15th, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure, like, because I would like, this is a whole new ball game for me, because I'm not really tech savvy or whatever. So this is all brand new. So I'm getting all the information I can possibly get from different places and different things, so I know what to do and where to go. And with the crisis and everything, I really cannot be going out because I have asthma problems, and I'm home with a teenage boy too, so it's very stressful in my household. So trying to find something to do. Yeah. So
Great. Thank you for your question, Naisha.
Thank you.
Chris, did you have another question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I did. It was, does the alumni do they participate in the CK app? Do the alumni come in and help out people in CK?
Of the Career Karma app?
Yes.
As of currently, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not aware.
We have one in the chat right now. Cherry, you want to say hello?
Hi, I'm enrolled right now. So Um, I'm in Q2 of SE, and there are a lot of people that have never coded before. There are people that they're in education and they're wanting something different. There's people that were in business. There are people that are homemakers that want to go back to work. So you don't necessarily have to be technical. You just have to be determined. So you just need to gauge your level of, if you don't get it at first, are you willing to ask for help? Are you willing to get with somebody and keep going at it until you get it? And as long as you can do that, then you can succeed. Because there are people that have graduated before this that were teachers and homemakers and everything else, and now they're in six-figure or near six-figure jobs. So it's possible. You just have to be determined to do it. So I don't know if that helps anybody, but yeah, I'm actually one of the student coaches. So I help the people that are in Q1 right now. And then when I go to Q3, I'll help the people that are in Q1 and Q2. So there's a bunch of coaches, there's facilitators, instructors, everybody's super helpful. And all you have to do is ask for help. They're not going to beg you to ask for help, but if you ask for it, you will definitely get it. Some of us were having trouble understanding Redux, because we learned React Redux in Q2. And so now they're starting a React Nights kind of pilot thing where they're getting us extra help. They actually paid somebody to come in and do night courses for us because they want us to succeed. And a lot of schools won't do that. A lot of schools are sink or swim. You either learn it or you don't. We have, sometimes on Fridays, they have like Friday happy hour where we sit around and everybody's just kind of socializing, because they try not to have a lot to do on Friday to try to catch up if you're behind, or to get extra help if you need it and things like that. So, they have a lot of community building activities and a lot of opportunities for help. So if you have any questions, you can contact me on CK if you want. But I'm a student right now, so that's a student perspective. And then you have the other perspectives that are here too.
Yeah, Chris, we have a ton of Kenzie students that are currently going through the program. So whenever you have questions, like the whole app is like people that are just, right in front of you and in your process. They've just been through that. And so they're the most capable of being able to help you out. This is actually a good segue to go back to Jake's experience with, so he actually was a student coach himself. What was that like, and like how much different is that from like instructor level?
It's not a whole lot different. It's I mean, the core of it is taking what you've learned and helping other people learn the same thing, right? Like we're all here. You as a coach and as an instructor, I know where these people have been. I went through very similar things. And so not only like it's great, it helps you reiterate your skills, right? So as a student coach at Kenzie, Kenzie offers the opportunity to folks that are, ahead in their work and that they feel can have this extra time in addition to their classwork to be a student coach for, you might be coaching students 3 months, 6 months behind you. And it's an amazing opportunity to reiterate what you know, because there's nothing that will help you fill in the gaps of what you know quicker than trying to explain it to another person. You realize very quickly that like, oh, wow, maybe I didn't know this as well as I thought I did. I need to make sure that I know this well enough to explain it to somebody. So it helped me as a student going through. It's also, I can't speak for future cohorts, but as of right now, student coaches are paid. So it's some extra money while you're going through the program, which also helps keep the motivation up. But no, it's like for me, you know, I came back to it. I really enjoyed, not only was I learning things myself, but I mean, you have the immediate gratification of somebody being like, oh, that makes more sense now. And that's amazing to me.
So for some people that might be interested in kind of pursuing that student coach route as well, what would you say are kind of, what's that like point? Because I know that there's like this whole imposter syndrome that like everyone kind of struggles with at some point, right? But where's that point when you're like, oh, I'm learning things and I don't know anything, to the point where you get like, oh, I kind of know a couple of things, like maybe I can share my own insights.
Yeah, that's a tough question. It's so different for everybody, and I'm not sure it ever really goes away completely for anybody. Even, you know, even the senior developers at companies have days where they're not sure if they're qualified to be doing what they're doing. So I'm to say the last part of the question again to get my gears rolling.
Yeah, no, it was basically just like, when do you find out, like, or when do you like get the feeling that, oh, like I'm qualified enough to like at least try to help someone else out?
Yeah. So, okay. I don't think it ever hits you like a freight truck, but I think it's kind of a slow burn. I think there are moments in programming, like I think I can trace back to like maybe 3 or 4, maybe like about once a quarter at Kenzie, like that was like, oh, like everything's kind of coming back into play. Like, you know, it's so abstract, and then like I can finally see where these little Lego pieces fit together, and my set is getting built like it looks like it does.
Oh shit.
So I think it's a little bit of having that click moment, and also like having the confidence to go out there and try and do it. You know, if you think that you can be a coach, even go give it a shot. People will tell you if you can or you can't.
You look
Yeah,
familiar.
and I
I'd
think,
like to know.
sorry, go ahead.
Hi, this is Shamita.
You
Can
look
you hear
familiar,
me?
Jake. You got YouTube video?
Can you hear me? This is
Shamita.
Shamita.
Yeah,
Shamita.
yeah, we can hear you, Shamita.
Okay. I just had a question about education technology. I am an educator and I like technology, but don't know a lot. And so I'm interested more in building like an app, a mobile and PC app in education technology. So I just would like to know what McKinsey does with EdTech.
Yeah. So EdTech specific, I can't say there's anything specifically related to learning EdTech, but I can say within the first 6 months of Kenzie, like your main capstone project that you complete, like you build an app. You're writing React code. You're writing code that people use to build apps. So it is, you know, it's all of the tools you need to build an application that functions. It lives on a server that other people can go visit it from anywhere in the world. That's there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I like to equate this type of like skill acquisition to, I don't know if a lot of you guys in this chat right now have seen the Avengers or like Marvel comics, right? Like those movies, those superhero movies that are coming out. But the premise is, right, and you know that like they're after like these infinity stones, right? And each infinity stone is a different power. And once you have all of those infinity stones, you can just at a snap of your fingers, you just make things like happen, whatever it is that you want. And it's not as instantaneous as that, but when you acquire the skill sets that is required to like build whatever it is that you're trying to build, you can actually actuate any idea that you have in your head and make it come true in the real world. And that's really awesome. And it's programs just like this that'll teach you that required skill set to do so. And whatever you want to do with those things, right? If it's ed tech, if it's something in healthcare, whatever it may be, you're able to solve whatever problem it is that you want to solve.
Jake,
Okay.
didn't you do some kind of like coding 24-hour competition where you built, what was that again? What were you building?
Yeah, actually, that was so it was a 24-hour hackathon hosted by I forget the actual name of the company, but they do a lot of security.
Did you say hack?
It's called a hackathon. It's just like it's
Oh!
like a hackathon. So like it's literally so it was sponsored by this big safety technology company as well as like AT&T and all this. So it was at the racetrack. They're like all of, they were celebrating the firefighters and, the immediate responders and all this. So like, it was this big kind of like first responders were what they were celebrating specifically. So it was this big, they're celebrating the responders. And then they had this hackathon going on that was sponsored by the technology companies where we built an app related to first responding or safety in general. So yeah, we ended up winning. Our team total won, I believe, $12,000 between all of us. We built an app in 24 hours used for in a school situation. An easy way to alert in a school setting both emergency and non-emergency situations to staff members. So it had like a chat feature that was available to faculty. It had like a feature for students where you could, conceal, like call an emergency thing. Kenzie gives you like the tools to do all sorts of things. Like I used the exact same skills during that hackathon as I used during my final capstone project.
That's pretty cool.
6 months.
I have had the pleasure of coaching one of the Kenzie alumni on pitching his application that he's helped develop starting in our program, and then been able to get other people on board to help out with it. So he's gone to pitch competitions. So it's an app called Kite. It's meant to increase access to communicating with loved ones who are either in incarcerated settings or in the military, because right now there's just so many, blockers and boundaries that are put in place to keep that from happening in an easy way. So this person, having had that experience personally, not being able to celebrate his daughter's birthdays and things like that, he took that experience, went to Kenzie Academy, and has created an app that's going to make it better for other people after he understood that experience personally, and has won competitions ever since then, getting thousands and thousands of dollars to help support that application, continuing to be developed even today. So yeah.
Who's the name of this fellow?
His name's Mark.
Oh.
If you
okay.
all
Mark
join
is
Kenzie,
Mark is actually going to be speaking to you all, I think either next week or the week after that. But yeah, I just talked to him yesterday or the day before, and his story is really it's really something special. So you guys definitely should hop on that AMA as well. But you'll get to hear all about it, and what he's done and is really like going above and beyond, right? And you kind of make this program like he was never asked to build, like to go above and beyond like the scope of his project, but he kind of wanted to, right? And he took that initiative. He was proactive about it. People aren't like forcing you to be a coach. People aren't forcing you to like go to hackathons, right? Like these are things that you kind of decide on yourself, and really, like with anything in life, it's you get the value that you put in, like the amount of effort that you put into it. And if you really want to take full advantage of that experience, you got to stop asking yourself, what's the smallest amount I can get away with? And ask yourself, what's the most that I can bear? And just shifting that mentality will serve you well in the long run. So.
Just to go off like what somebody said, I have family. I have a cousin who's in the Air Force, so it's very like I don't know if he's deployed or not. So an app for me to to talk to him, because being deployed, you don't get to talk too much with family. So to know that there is a school that actually could help and build an app to say, okay, these are for like families who has military family that's being deployed. It's very amazing. So like things like that is really cool for me, and that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, and you can gain like the ability to create like anything that you like imagine, and that's like very powerful to really think about. Yeah, Jake, what are like some things that you've built that you're like super proud of? I think you might be a little muted, or I guess there's only binary with that muted.
Yeah, so things I've built I'm super proud of. So just at Kenzie, like as a student, so we have it's project based, as I said. So after you learn these skills for a little bit, like you're in teams with the people, your classmates, you're building projects just like you're on a real development team at any tech startup ever. So the first thing we built was a small little Twitter clone. Like you could log in, you could post a tweet, other people could create accounts and log in and post a tweet. You could like things, really basic Twitter functionality. The thing I'm most proud of is our the capstone project. So kind of like the culmination final project at the end of our 6 months, where we got to choose anything we wanted and build it out. So we built it's called Dine on Time. It's a little recipe app made to accompany like meal kit services like Blue Apron. So it was like an app you open up when you get your Blue Apron box, you scan a QR code. We had a function in like QR code reader. It would take you and it would like on your phone break down everything you needed, and it would time everything for you. So you could put like what time you wanted to eat dinner, and it would say, okay, like we'll ding you at this time for you to do this thing. And it would walk you through like timer wise each step of the menu. So it was like, there's a lot of time in the room with my team on the whiteboard, like conceptualizing and all of this, but like it culminated. We got to show off these presentations to not only like Kenzie people, like Kenzie made a big deal about it, telling people to come, but like local tech people like came, people's parents came, and like we had a little demo booth set up with our app. It was like, it was really like the culmination of everything. It was like, we built this app and like, look what it does. We've got a whole demo. Like it felt like we were at like a tech conference or something. So that's like the number one thing.
Yeah, and that's like a really good like exemplification of just that like skill acquisition and being able to like build something. And like you started from like just ideas and looking at a board and just being like, well, what can we build? And then actually being able to do that. And that's like really cool.
Yeah.
Did anyone have any questions? We are reaching like towards the end of this event. Did we have any other questions? Go ahead, Rolf.
Jake, my friend, as someone that started with no background in the tech or software engineering, what is some hurdle or what is some advice you can give someone that is first starting and to mitigate and manage their time very well so they can get the learning as best as possible.
Yeah. Utilize your time, go above and beyond, write code. That's my biggest thing. If you're going into software engineering and you're learning how to program, write code, read code, do it all the time, go above and beyond kind of, what Melvin was saying, you can get through, Kenzie, you can do the bare minimum. You'll be job ready. Will it be your dream job? Will it be the thing that you're out here that you can accomplish? Probably not. Put that time in, read code, write code, I think is like what I can boil it down to. Just always be doing it, engulf yourself in it.
Yeah, it's good to get down to those fundamentals and just remember that really they are, at the end of the day, they are building blocks. And just the more that you can perfect it, right? Like the read code, write code, read code, write code, read code, write code, read code, write code, and just over and over and over again until you feel, one day you'll wake up and you'll be like, hey, like I actually built something that I'm like pretty proud of. That's cool. Thanks for the question, Rolf. It's awesome. So before we wrap up here, Jake, where can people find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn. I don't know what the actual link to that. I will find that link. But yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn if you search for Jake Johnson at Kenzie. I think that I'm like off social media entirely for like years, and I'm a happier person because of it. So I think LinkedIn's about the only place.
All right. And so this is going to be my last question. And for everyone that's on the chat, this is kind of geared towards, you just got a lot of really valuable insights, and it would be a shame that you guys don't take it and actually implement it to your day-to-day. So I'm going to ask Jake, what is one thing people can do this week to help them move closer towards their goal of breaking into tech?
Yeah, Google intro to JavaScript, find the most basic thing you can find and write some sort of code. Piece together what you can. Just look up how to write hello world in JavaScript. Google that, how to write hello world in JavaScript. See what you can do. It doesn't matter if you don't understand it. Write some JavaScript code and see how it feels for you.
That is incredible advice, because most people kind of get bogged down by this whole big idea that like coding is this really difficult thing to do. But at the end of the day, you just got to get started. And so I would love to hear all of your experiences with just, Googling how to write hello world in JavaScript. Thank you, Jake, so much. Now. Yes. And so after this event as well, like I'll be creating posts. I'll also be reaching out to Jake to jump into discussions afterwards. If you guys still had questions that weren't answered, I would love to just hear what you all have to say. So I'm going to be following up with each and every one of you. Let's see how writing hello world on JavaScript goes. Again, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And Jake, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah.
I just dropped a link in the chat. We do have a workshop right after this. That's actually a JavaScript workshop. So join us over there. And again, thank you all so much. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.